Super 7R, most dominant edger in the market, bar none. Without a doubt in my mind, the best edger on the market. First thing I want you to do, just to make it convenient and easy, is we're going to take the pad off. I took my pad off already, but I'm going to show you how to do it on yours. These are the tools that you need right here. This is it. You see these holes in here? They have a purpose. The purpose is in case you can't get the pad off, you can rotate the holes and you can remove the entire gear unit assembly. And then you can figure out why the pad won't come off. But if you want this pad to come off really quick and easy, you're going to take this, you're going to put it in that big hole, you're going to take that. At this point, this is not a hammer. This is now an energy delivering device, okay? It's not a hammer, because I'm not a hammer mechanic. You're going to take this hammer and you're going to hit that with a lot of energy. How about that? Now, you can get that other attachment that puts in the holes, but in order to do it, you've got to put something in the fan to paralyze the machine. And I don't like putting anything in that fan. Yeah, I got it. These edger pads were manufactured out of stamped steel. A stamped steel piece you cannot get completely uniform each and every time. And then they took a spot welder and they welded on the shoulder in 3 or 4 spots. Well, when you heat something up to weld it, you change it. You change the position. These fiber washers cushioned for that imperfection. Now, this is a injected molding casting, and it's turned on a CNC, and this piece is perfectly flat. So you don't have to have these anymore. This is not necessary anymore. So if you have a Clarkey part, not a aftermarket, unbalanced, excessively large amount of rubber on an edger pad, because there's a couple guys that do that, they actually put more rubber on the pad and they think, oh, that's going to give them more wear life. All it does is stick out farther and make the guy hit the nail and chew it up faster. So you're wasting your time and your energy and your money, and these are spun balanced. Each one of these edger pads are all balanced, okay? Now, our friend here has got it on the ground and it's rocking, isn't it? Your pad's bent, isn't it? Is that bad from the get-go? How can that be?
They're all like that.
They're all like that. Well, that's a good thing, because there is a built-in 2-degree angle of deflection on this edger pad. It has to be there. There is no way you can take a handheld grinder and set it flat, and you tell me if you can sand. That thing's going to jump all over, isn't it? Well, with this 2-degree angle of deflection, and we're going to talk about the pitch of the edgers, we're going to be able to take that 2-degree angle of deflection, we're going to use that to our advantage to make this thing cut. We're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. Now, this is very important to remember.
David, you have another Phillips?
I've got plenty up here.
There's one in that drawer. No. There's nothing in this. It's a table that didn't have it.
Be careful with these little screws. You will break them. They are easy to break. There are 4 of these.
It's still good.
Yeah. If you have one where you can't turn it by hand and it won't come out, take your hammer, energy delivering device, and just tap it. And that'll shock it loose. Okay? So we have those 4 are out. That's going to pull your roller guard out. Now, how many times do you guys see a roller guard and it's just jammed up full of blue tape? Or taped so that it's paralyzed to the front of the machine, okay? This one here is mine, and like I said, this is probably 8 years old. There's no tape on it. It's not beat up real bad. I take care of it. You guys use the Scotch-Brite pads for hardwood flooring. Get a piece of Scotch-Brite pad, and when you take it off, rub the front of that with the Scotch-Brite pad, and it'll clean it up really good. And that's all I do. A couple times a year is take it off and just clean it up really good. Now this one here, like I said, it's been a long time. Last time I edged was probably 7-8 weeks ago. And then I realized that it's been sitting a while and it's time for some new bearings and it's time for its 1-year checkup. So that's where we're at. Once you get that done, now you're ready to pop the gear unit off. There are 3 screws underneath there. Go ahead and take those 3 screws. They should not be super duper tight. It should come off relatively easy. There are 3 screws, and underneath that screw is a seal. Make sure you pull the seal off with it and keep the screw with it because they're easy to lose. That seal prevents the grease from coming out. That's all it does. Now, there is no way to grab it and just pop it off, is there? I can't tell you how many times I've seen guys take a chisel and a hammer, pop, 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 trying to get that out. That's a no-no. Keep a junk edger pad. You can use a new one. I don't care the one that came with it. Thread it on about halfway. Take yourself 2 pry bars, and guess what comes right out? There it is. Just that quick and just that easy. Here's your gear unit and your gear unit, your gear unit cover and your gears, and then your jack shaft. Jack shaft's what I call it. I don't know how or why, but people are convinced that you can bend that jack shaft. I've never seen one bent. Never. I've seen them stripped, but never bent. And the guy says, my jack shaft must be bent because it bounces. Well, I can bet you the jack shaft's not bent and your pad's the problem, okay? The grease that is in here looks like Pennzoil 707. Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? That white lithium grease, but that's not what this is. I don't know the chemical makeup of this. If I did tell me the secret, I'd probably have to kill you. But what this grease does is as it gets hot, it gets liquidy, and then it gets on the gears. And then as it cools, it just gets back into that solid form. So don't think that when you pull this out, this thing should be just covered in grease. It's not going to be covered in grease. It's going to be covered in the film of grease. If you notice, yours has got a film on it rather than a lump. If we lumped it all up, it would cause problems and bind up the gear unit. So that's easy enough. To get the gear cover and the gear separated, once you just kind of shock it, it'll break loose. You can take it to the press and press it right out. We will do that because I'm going to show you how to do this all the way through, the whole process. To get the armature out of this one, you have to take the pinion off. The B2 you can pull out with the pinion on. But the Super 7R, you have to pull the gear pinion off. It's 9/16 wrench. It's got a flat head on one side. This is the only time I'm going to tell you to paralyze the motor. But don't paralyze it here because you'll break those fins. Paralyze it here. These fans are much smaller and they're not going to flex on you. So when you go to take this off, you're going to paralyze it up here. And you're going to have to get that in a position to where when you put the nut or the wrench and everything together, you're going to be able to turn it. The question is, you tell me, you think it's reverse thread or is it just standard thread? So instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. When you're working on the B2 or the Super 7, one thing you're going to need plenty of, lots of rags, because your fingertips are going to get nasty. Your tools are going to get nasty. Okay? We're going to go ahead and break it loose. We're going to screw it all the way off. There's your pinion. Now, I want you to examine your pinion. Here's how you determine if these things are good or bad. This is a steel pinion, right? This is brass. What's this going to wear first? The brass. How do you know when it's bad?
Flakes.
Sir?
Flakes.
Flakes? That's a good one. Could be flakes inside here.
Sharp teeth.
Sharp teeth and sharp edges, okay? The technical term is called rolling and pinging. How about that for some nice words, huh? Rolling and pinging. What happens is the edge will roll over and this top edge will ping up. It'll get sharp. So you just run your finger on the top of it, and if it's excessive, you got a bad set of gears. There's 6 ounces of lubricant in here. Now, are your gears brass or steel?
Brass.
They should have the white grease. If it's a steel gear, it should have the blue grease in there.
Okay.
But that was been changed probably,
06.
yeah, in 2006.
Yeah.
So that's been a while ago.
They're all old.
But it won't hurt it if it's a steel gear. Put the white grease in there, okay? So we got that apart. We got everything good to go. Now we're going to start on the top half. Take your pocket knife or a small screwdriver. You're going to pop these vent covers out. These are to let it breathe more than they are an inspection point. You're going to need a small Phillips head. You're going to take out the 2 screws that hold the covers on. That's going to expose your covers. This side's going to have the switch attached to it, so you're not going to be able to just pop it off. Take your 9/16 wrench, remove the nut, and you'll be able to get it off. Okay. Does your switch should have tape around it? That's a safety thing. We want to make sure that your switch has tape. We'll get some tape and put it back around when we're done. To take the switch apart, doesn't take a rocket scientist. Flathead screwdriver and pull them out. There's 4 screws with 6 wires. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, we got to take out the 4 screws, and that will expose the 6 wires. Now, if you notice, when you plug the machine in, the light comes on. That's the way it's designed. The light should not come on when you turn it on and off. The light's supposed to come on when you plug it in. That's an indication that you got power, and that means that someone wired it correctly. Yes, we will put new tape on, so just go ahead and take your pocket knife or peel it off, whatever you got to do. They'll put about a 12-inch piece of tape on there, and the reason we do that is because when you turn the switch on, it may pop, may have a spark like a spark plug, and with the exposed copper in there, we don't want to do that. It'll give us a short. All right, that exposes your switch. All right, now, I like to tilt it back like this when I'm working on it. We're going to remove the motor brushes. This is a new style brush block. You're going to see 2 styles of brush blocks in the Super 7R. The old style had a large coiled spring that would push back on it, okay? The new style has this barrel. And this barrel switch is better because it keeps constant pressure. When the old coil spring would get hot, it would lose its ability to press or keep uniform pressure on it. This, it always keeps pressure on it. There is 1 inch-pound of pressure on here. That's not a lot, but that's all it takes to keep contact. They don't get as hot. No, they don't. They're absolutely amazing on this machine here. There are 4 of these that you're going to take out. 1 in the front, 1 in the back, 2 on the sides. What I like to do is just make sure I'm not going to pull anything when I pull this out of there. All right, we're good. And if you're going to unscrew it, don't use a power tool. Do it all by hand. These are in tight, so I'm going to give them a little love. Ooh, yeah. That's a long screw to tap if you break it.
Yes.
Don't break it. I loosen them by hand, and then I'll use the power tool. They will snap. They will snap, and you got to try to extract that out of there. Before you pop your cover, you got to disconnect your ground wire. The ground wire is on the inside of the switch side. Go ahead and take that out. You're going to notice with the ground wire, there's a screw. You've got the spade clip that holds the wire lead, and then you have a little star washer. The star washer goes underneath the spade clip, not on top of it. So a lot of guys don't catch it, and they'll lose it down in there. And this is the little star washer I'm talking about. On the ground wire. Then you're going to have a white wire on the left side. Pop that white wire off. Once you get those all off, now it's a lot easier to do it here. Then you just take your hands and pop this up. There it is. Inside the top cover, you're going to see the load spring. If you got plenty of lubricant in there, it's not going to fall out. Now we've got everything exposed. Now we're going to take the body off, or the field's going to come off. So to do that, we got to take the lamp off. All right, remove your light cover. I got my light bulb already out. You're going to see a Phillips head screw in the front. Take that Phillips head screw out. Then on the back side, you're going to have two Allens, and they should be. No, I believe they're like 5/16, I believe. What size are they? They're 3/16. How about that? One quick of advice: when you take your light bulb out, use a rag on an older one, because as it gets hot, the glass becomes brittle and it'll crack when you try to push and twist it. So I always take a rag and wrap it around the lens. Once you get all that out, take a dead blow hammer or something wood handle and then tap it, and it should break it free and it should come up. If you get it twisted to the side a little bit, you should be able to get a flat blade in there and pop it loose. Now you're going to see nothing but quality come out of here. I guarantee you that.
Your armature popped up.
Our armature did that on purpose. Normally it should come right off, but my armature, this is why you inspect them every year. I've got a burn spot on here, and it's not going to let the armature come out of the field. So how about that, huh? Real life right here. Real life. All right, if everything's right with your armature, and mine wasn't, this is just going to pop right off. How do you guys check the field? Send it out somebody. We do not have the instruments in our shops to check these things. It's all done with ohms and resistance. All you can do is take your high pot tester and touch one lead here and then one lead inside here. If it goes off, you know you got a dead short. Touch the other lead, touch it here, touch the inside metal. If it goes off, you got a short. If it doesn't go off, you have to assume it's good. The only way that you're going to know if it's good or bad is to throw it on a very expensive ohms reading. And it actually puts a load on it, and it can tell the resistance that goes through the field. And then they have a plus or minus surge factor, almost like a capacitor. But it's all done by reading how many ohms, the resistance. Because what happens is when you throw the power to it, it makes a magnetic field, and that's what makes the armature spin. We don't have that technology in our shops. That's a very expensive piece of equipment. So if a guy says, my machine just gets hot all the time, and you've changed the armature and the brushes, more than likely it's the field. Because it's not getting, the resistance is too high. So when your amperage drops and when your amperage goes up, what happens? It gets hot. So that's your only judges right there. That's the only way you can tell. If you're suspicious, take it to a motor shop and they can test it. That's a pretty expensive piece of equipment. To get it out, real simple. And I want you to take it out because they do burn out. I mean, it's the reality. You got 2 screws, okay? Now, here's what I would suggest. Mark it. Take a marker and make a mark on the field and on the armature. I'm sorry, on the field and on the cover, so that you know exactly where it came out. On the assembly line, when they're starting to make these things go in an oven, and they get them hot so that they can drop them in. What we're going to do is we're going to protect the wires, and we're going to take the torch. If you notice, I don't have any labels on this anymore. This might be the reason why. I'm going to take it and get it hot. That's how easy it is. Okay? Didn't have to beat it, didn't have to press it. All I did was take the torch and get it hot. Now, if you're going to notice, you have the 2 black wires. Those 2 black wires are going where? They go to the light bulb, right? So that's what those are for. If you have to change it, you don't have to pull the field. You can pull it through and then with a long pair of needle nose, pull it back through without taking the field out. So that's how easy it is. The key to remember is how it goes back in. If you clock this 1 click, you're going to make this machine run half speed. If you clock it all the way around, it may not even turn on, but it could run reverse. Okay? So this has to go in a certain way. All right? To get your brush block out, look at the pattern. This is a 4-pole brush block, okay? You're going to feed the front, the 2 brush blocks are tied together, the front one and the back one, and then you got a jumper that ties the side one to the other side. If you turn that 1 click, it's going to mess up the RPMs. You got to get it back in the same way. So if you go to replace it, you're going to get a new brush block. They come with the wires. Make sure you set it in the same way, and make sure when you do it, you're looking at it whatever position you're comfortable to do it in, up, down, left, or right. It doesn't matter. But go ahead and take it out. The brush block is wired the same. If you have an old Super 7 and you want to put the new brush blocks in it and the new springs, go right ahead. It'll fit right in perfectly.
So either away from you cross or to you cross.
If you want to make this easy so you don't forget, we got these beautiful things called cell phones. Take a picture. I've got pictures up on my walls of different machines so that I won't forget how it goes back together. So I just, real quick, whip out the camera, and I got a picture. Easy, right? Boom.
Just mark.
You can make a mark, but what if you're replacing it? What if you're not putting the same one back in? There you go, you got a picture. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I've got to disconnect the one side, which goes to there we go. There's my brush block assembly. Here's your top cover. Old machines, they're going to have screws on the sides. The handles would come off. The newer ones are all one piece. Doesn't matter either way. This technique's still the same. What you're going to look for in the top cover is where the bearing runs inside the cover. When they get to be 20, 25 years old, that bearing and this top cover will waller out a little bit. Waller is a technical term. If it wallers out, it's time for a new cover. Inside the top cover should be a spacer. There's a bushing. Notice that bushing has a shoulder on it. That shoulder should go down. Okay? There is a bearing and a seal in there. Go ahead and pull it out and we'll get a new one then. Go ahead and pull your seal. And we don't have a seal puller, so take a pair of needle nose and see if you can work it out of there. You put it underneath there, you pry back on it, and the seal is done. You cannot reuse it, okay? All right, underneath the seal is a snap ring and then the bearing. To get the bearing out, obviously we got to pull the snap ring out. So I'm going to take the snap ring out, and then we're going to put a new bearing in it. Yeah, you can buy these seal tools at O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto Part, anywhere. They're not, and they're handy to have. Okay, got that out. Turn it over. All I got to do is drive this bearing down and out. I'm not worried about protecting it, so I'll use whatever I can. Again, I'm going to use a hammer at this point because I'm not worried about protecting it. So what I'll just do is get a deep well socket. There you go. We're going to put it on there, and I'm just going to drive it out. Okay. There's our bearing right there. At this point, you literally have everything taken apart on this machine.